All right, Jabal, say good evening. Good evening. Let's begin. Let's begin, chaburah. So I want to tell you just a couple of first of all, tremendous yasher koach to Rebbe Tzvi for the beautiful spread tonight. Mamish beautiful spread. A special yasher koach to our double Scotch bourbon sponsor, Baruch Fischel Kozlovsky. We welcome Baruch Fischel back and a continued refuah shalima. Baruch Hashem.
The other Scotch came
From Ellie.
Oh, from Ellie. Shkoyach. Shkoyach. Incredible. Thank you. Tiskul mitzvos. Right? So I'll say, just a little bit about tonight. I when preparing this shir today, I had a tremendous pull to Rabbi Nachman. Who doesn't have a pull to Rabbi Nachman? But today, I always have a pull to Rabbi Nachman. Usually I'm able to fight back against it. Today, I lost. I was pulled to Rabbi Nachman, and I wanted to do a piece tonight from the Kuti Halachas, which we'll do a couple of pieces in Mirz Hashem. But I also want to take the opportunity to mention that beginning next week, I think I posted it on the chat. Beginning next week, we're going to begin a very special limud for Chodesh Elul. That's probably going to take us from Elul through the Yomim Tovim, which is the Piazetzna. The Rebbe Piazetzna, Eish Kodesh, has a beautiful sefer called B'nai Machshava Tova. And the essence of the sefer, we'll discuss it more next week, but the essence of the sefer was written to create a model of small chaburahs, small groups of people who are focused on growth and self-improvement. And the truth is, what my machshava for it was, I guess I'll talk about this more next week a little bit. I wanted to start these smaller chaburahs. Every time Elul comes, I think about what I want to do differently. And so often we have, Baruch Hashem, a lot of shiurim, and thank God, Baruch Hashem, nice size shiurim. And one of the things I think that I would love to be able to start doing is smaller chaburahs. Smaller groups of people working on a particular avodah, and the Piazetzna wrote the roadmap for that. In this sefer B'nai Machshava Tova, he wrote how to structure these chaburahs. And then as I'm learning the sefer over the summer, I realized that the truth is, before structuring these chaburahs, it's kedai to learn the sefer. Because the Piazetzna really speaks about B'nai Machshava Tova, about refining the way we think and looking at the world in a different way, and not just being focused actionally, but being focused cognitively on how we're living, where we're going, what we're doing. And it's the Piazetzna. So it's an incredible sefer. It's very small. It's actually a small pile. I'm going to order a bunch of copies for whoever would like one. It's a transformative sefer. It's mamish transformative. So we're going to learn that during Chodesh Elul a little bit, the Mirz Hashem, and hopefully from there maybe break off into smaller chaburahs. We'll talk about that more next week. And then after Yom Tov, we'll come back to the Chaban. Tzvi asked me if I finished with the Chaban. Never finished with the Chaban. You've never finished with the Chaban.
That way.
No. I know. He wasn't saying it that way. No. I was saying we're going to come back to the Chaban Mirz Hashem because the truth is, we have to, rotating. We only got a couple of chapters into Akitzu V'Ranenu, so there's a lot more to do in that sefer. So we'll come back. But in Mirz Hashem, so tonight Rabbi Nachman, then in Mirz Hashem next couple of weeks the Piazetzna, and then after Yom Tov in Mirz Hashem the Chaban. I will say, what a journey, right? We're going to be with such great tzaddikim over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So yes.
No, sorry, I didn't go. No, I wanted to say, recently when I researched it, I was doing some reading, I read about Chalban's picture, and he does it, but what he is was amazing,
yeah,
in his history. But you look at him, and he looks like just a
there's a lot to his story. Mirz Hashem, we'll go back when we resume learning his Torah. We'll speak a little bit. I realize we never kind of delved into his biography and spoke a little bit about his life. So Mirz Hashem, we'll do that when we get back to him. But I will say, what I want to share with you tonight is really an incredible piece by Rabbi Nachman, a couple of pieces. So this is actually a couple of years ago. I'll tell you, I was walking up from the Kosel, and I walked if you walk by the Eish HaTorah way, not up the main staircase. So it's interesting. I always love going there because there's this guy, off to the side, there's this guy, Breslov guy who lives in the old city, and he sells Sfarim outside of his house. But when I say he sells Sfarim, he leaves sets of Sfarim, and he leaves a pushka, and he's like, okay. So I a couple of years ago, I was walking by there, and I saw the set of Chumashim, Chumash im Lekutei Halachas. It's Rabbi Nachman's Torah, literally again on the Parshios. So I picked it up, My wife says, I'm not carrying that. Right? It's like, just want to be clear, right? It's fine, go for it, but you're carrying it. I said, fine, okay, Baruch Hashem. I said, fine, if you don't want the schos of carrying chumashim in Eretz Yisrael, okay, fine. Right? Didn't work. By the way, didn't work at all. Didn't work. Yeah. So anyway, I came across this set of chumashim, a number. I'm sure you could get it here also, but I never really saw it before, and I was just so enthralled by it. The ability to see Rabbi Nachman's Torah, literally again, just with the parashas, we're doing Shtayim Mikra, just to catch a little bit of the Rebbe. So I came across a couple of pieces today that I wanted to share with you because I found them transformative. Now let me tell you the other way I knew that it was Hashkacha that we're doing Rabbi Nachman. The pieces we're going to do today are on the mitzvah of tzedakah. And amazingly enough, what did we have in today's daf? Today's daf was Takanas Usha, Hamevazvez al Yevazvez Yoser Mechomesh. Right? So again, today's daf, we learned the halacha that even if you're giving away, you want to give away vast amounts of tzedakah, you cannot give away more than 1/5 of your, whatever it means. Tosfos says we could give away 1/5 of your estate, and then every year you could give away 1/5 of your earnings. Okay, without getting into that.
Yeshivas are not included in that.
So there's a whole discussion. We spoke out there. There's plenty of exceptions. Building funds are number one. There's total funds, right? So no, there are plenty. We spoke about this morning. Actually, interesting enough, I'll just mention it again because I thought it was such a profound idea. The Balatanya says that a major exception is that's only if you're giving tzedakah as mitzvahs tzedakah. But the Rebbe says if you're giving tzedakah as a form of tshuva, there is no cap on the amount of tzedakah you can give, which is an incredible idea in any event. So because we had tzedakah in the daf, and there's tzedakah in this week's parasha, and I saw this piece by Rabbi Nachman, I felt the ashkacha was that we should do this. So we're actually going to go a little bit out of order. If you turn to the second page, which is page Kuf Ayin Ches, you see the underlined lines there on the bottom, on the right-hand side of the page, but the left-hand column on the right-hand side of the page. I know that made a lot of sense, right? I'm sorry, this one over here.
No, below here?
Yep. Correct. So I will say, so just to give you a little bit of context, right? What's the context of the psukim? So the Torah over here, this is actually the beginning of Shishi. So the Aliyah itself begins with a discussion regarding Shemitah. Shemitah, we know that Shemitah cancels debts. Actually, again, this is actually very important because it's during Chodesh Elul that a person has to write the prosbol if they have any outstanding debts, if they don't want Shemitah to go ahead and cancel their debts. So we know that Shemitah cancels debts. The Torah says a person may come to think, Karva Shnas Hasheva, Shemitah is coming, I don't want to lend any money because if I lend money, I'm going to lose. Remember, again, already as a Jewish lender, I can't lend interest, and I can't lend with interest. And now, again, Shemitah is coming, it's going to cancel the debt. So the Torah Kedosha says, don't do that. Don't do that. Have a little emunah, have a lot of emunah, and recognize again it's a mitzvah to give, to lend another Jew money. Don't worry about the fact that Shemitah is coming. Okay, so then the Torah then launches into, after that, the Torah then goes on to talk about the general mitzvah of tzedakah. So the Torah says, Hishamar lecha, penyeh davar im levavcha b'liyah lemar, karvashas hasheva good, nason titein lo, v'lo yera levavcha b'siton lo. Give tzedakah. Give tzedakah to the person in need. V'lo yera levavcha. Do not let your heart feel negative about this. B'sitcha lo, when you give him money. Ki biglal hadavar hazeh. Because it is in the merit. Pasha Pshat is, it's in the merit of your generosity. In the merit of the tzedakah that you're going to give. Yivarechacha Hashem elokecha b'chol ma'asech. Hashem will bless you in all of your endeavors. U'b'chol mishlach yadecha. And anything in which you put your hand to accomplish. So I will say, look what Rabbi Nachman says. So let's go, let's look inside. So the Rebbe says as follows. V'lo yera levavcha b'sitcha lo. So again, Rebbe's here quoting the pasuk. Don't have a negative heart when you give tzedakah. Ki biglal hadavar hazeh yivarechacha Hashem elokecha b'chol ma'asecha. Because in the merit of your generosity, Hashem will bless all of your initiatives, all of your endeavors. So look what the Rebbe says. Godol ma'alas hatzdaka she'izhira haTorah kidosh aleh kama pamim. Remember again, the Torah speaks about the ma'ila, the incredible benefits and importance of tzedakah, many times throughout the Torah. Ki tzrichen litin lahaniyim chelkam sheyesh lahem b'hashefa shalo. So I will say, look at these words. The Rebbe says, because what is tzedakah? The mitzvah of tzedakah is to give the aniyim chelkam. Chelkam means what? How do you translate that? Chelkam, their share. Sheyesh lahem b'hashefa shalo. Says the Rebbe, what's the mitzvah of tzedakah? The mitzvah of tzedakah is to give the ani the portion of my wealth that belongs to him. What? Up until I came to this year, I thought to myself, the mitzvah of tzedakah is I take my money and I share it with you. Says Rebbe, no, that's not mitzvah tzedakah. Mitzvah tzedakah is to take the portion of the ani's money that is mixed in with my money and to give it to the ani. Says the Rebbe, ki bevadai gam lazeh ani va'evyon yesh tzinor shel shefa. The Rebbe says, and this is a profound yesod in chassidus, that there is what's called a tzinor shel shefa. Tzinor shel shefa means literally like a faucet of shefa, of divine blessing. Every single person has their tzinor, right? Every single person has their faucet. He says, "V'im haya," I'm in page Kufayin test now. "V'im haya olam misnai karai," and if the world functioned as it was supposed to function, lo haya shum evyon ba'olam. I will say there would not be. Make sure the Gabbai gets a l'chaim. He's got a big Shabbos coming. He needs it. Hey, so I'll say. So now listen to this. So if the world look what the Rebbe says. If the world functioned as it was supposed to function, there would be no such thing as poor people. Why? Ki hayayori l'chol echad hashpa'aso meiseichel hakol al derech hatzinor v'hakli shalo. I will say this is such a profound yesod. So the Rebbe says, every person has a faucet. I know, is faucet the right word for tzinor? Tzinor, right? Faucet. A pipe. Right? Every person has a faucet, has a pipe. Right? Every person good. We use the faucet pipe. Every person has that. And therefore the Rebbe says in reality, I will say there are more sheets by the way over here if anyone needs in the middle. And therefore again the Rebbe says that really there should be no aniyim. Because at the end of the day, because everyone has their own pipe, everyone has their own faucet, therefore everyone gets their own shefa. Okay. And I will say indeed, that's what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, everyone has their own pipe, everyone has their own faucet, and everyone gets their own shefa, their own bracha from Hashem. V'nimshach hashefa rak lohem l'chol echad ve'echad kefi hatzinor shalo ki bevada yesh l'kol echad miyisrael kli v'tzinor l'kabo rov hashefa. Let me see one more line. Ki kol echad miyisrael yesh lo chelik b'atorah kedosha sheyotze misech l'akol b'skalel b'bchinas arais michach milah. So I'll say so again. So without getting into some of the technical pieces that the Rebbe is highlighting over here, the image that he's trying to create is everyone has their own pipeline. Everyone has their own faucet. Everyone has their own pipe that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and literally again the Rebbe Shalom sends down his brachas to each individual. That's how the world worked, and that's why when things are as they are supposed to be, there's no such thing as an ani. There's no such thing as a poor person, because a poor person, what is a poor person? Someone who's not getting his shefa. Well, when the world is as it's supposed to be, everybody gets their shefa. Look what the Rebbe writes: Aval ikar ha'anius hurak ayidei shepogmin b'hatorah. Va'ikra al yidei pegam emunas chachamim she'al yidei zeh nis'ar bivu v'nisbalbalu hatzinoros. The Rebbe says something amazing. When we klal yisrael, when we don't do what we're supposed to do, so we'll say, what happens? What happens? The piping gets mixed up, right? Everything gets intertwined. Everything gets mixed up. So this pipe, normally again, they will say the way it works is very simple. Every yid has a pipeline, has a faucet, has a pipe right from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to him. That's when the world operates as it's supposed to. That's when we're fulfilling the Torah. But unfortunately, when Klal Yisrael doesn't do, when we don't do what we're supposed to do, then what? Then at the end of the day, the piping gets mixed up, right? Things get turned around. And suddenly, the shefa doesn't reach where it's supposed to reach. Ad shirov hashefa yoredes la'ovdei kochavim u'rishaim. Until Chas Hashem, sometimes the majority of the shefa ultimately comes to what? Doesn't even come to Am Yisrael. It goes to the nations of the world. U'ma'at hashefa ba'li Yisrael eina yoredes keseder. And the little bit of shefa that does come down to Am Yisrael doesn't come in the right order. What does it does come in the right order? Meaning that at the end of the day, the shefa gets all mixed up. The pipes, I want to say something like I had. Well, let's finish. Shefa shalzeh, he lepamim eitzelzeh. But I will say to the point that what could happen? Sometimes my shefa ends up by you, and your shefa ends up by me. Sometimes when the piping gets mixed up, shefa goes kiviyachol to the wrong place. Now, obviously, Shefa is coming from Hashem. So it doesn't go, so to speak, to the wrong place, but it doesn't necessarily come to its natural, immediate destination. Al-Kain, Zeh Yeshlo Ashirus Gadol, B'Zeh Ani Ve'evyon. It is an interesting thing if you think about it. And it might sound a shtickle like socialist, but if you think about it, it is interesting that there are some people who are fabulously wealthy and some people who have nothing. Now, we believe that Osher and Oni is determined by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you think, Ribono Shel Olam, again, I'm going to be careful how I use this word, but why not redistribute? Right? Why not redistribute? Right? After all, wouldn't it be better for everyone to have what they need than for some to have more than what they need and some to have less? The Rebbe posits that that's the concept ultimately, again, that's the manifestation, the byproduct of Chet. When Klal Yisrael is not doing what it's supposed to do and the world is not as it should be, the shefa gets mixed up. The tzinoros, the piping becomes all intertwined until some have a lot and some have very little. Ze'ani ve'evyon. Ube'emes bishar Rabosai. So now watch this. Now if you understand this, what does this mean, Rabosai? What is the Rebbe saying? And this is incredibly profound. The Rebbe is saying is, if you are one of those people who has a lot, Baruch Hashem, chances are that what?
You have too much.
It's not that you have too much, but what?
You don't have your own.
It's not just yours.
It's not yours.
That means that someone else's shefa is winding up in your pot, so to speak. Is winding up in your faucet. Someone else's pipes got crisscrossed into yours. So you just had this, talk about crisscrossing. I had to get a thermostat replaced in my house. So the guy does the thermostat, and he says, well, I can't connect it to your heater. I'm like, what do you mean you can't connect it to the heater? He's like, don't worry, it's not going to be cold for a while. No. I said, that's fine. What do you mean you can't connect to the heater? He's like, I don't understand how your wiring works. Right? He said, did your heat work? Did your heat work this past winter? I said, my heat worked perfectly. He said, I've been in this, he didn't say malacha, but I've been in this work for 30 years. I've never seen wiring like this. I can't figure out why your heater works. Let's say, so he was, so it was just, Baruch Hashem. So it was, I'm like, all right, I think we're going to get a second opinion over here. He wanted to crack open. Well, so it turns out they were able to figure it out. But it was fascinating. What they were able to see is just the wires didn't follow the straight derech. In other words, the right wires were ultimately doing, but they were just whatever. They were mixed up a little bit. It wasn't the normal derech. So the Rebbe is saying that in the world of where Klal Yisrael is not fully compliant with Torah, which means a world of galus, a world is where the seder is not as it should be, the shefa gets mixed up. So therefore, again, Baruch Hashem, if I'm privileged and I have a lot, so we sometimes think of having a lot as reflective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's pleasure with me, that obviously I'm doing something right, which of course part of that could be true, but the Rebbe says there's a whole other component. And the whole other component is the way the world should work is that there's enough shefa for everyone. If the way the world is working now, if that some have a lot, some have a little, some have none, that means those who have a lot have not only their own shefa, but have the shefa of others mixed in with their chelek as well. And therefore says the Rebbe something amazing. He says, Ube'emes, b'sharshu ashiru shel zeh, rubo mechelek ha'aniyim. Now the Rebbe here adds in one word which is very dramatic. He says, therefore, b'sharshu ashirus, at the essence of this person's wealth, rubo mechelek ha'aniyim. I'll say, what does rubo mean? The majority. So the Rebbe says, if you're a wealthy person, Baruch Hashem, probably understand, chances are, the majority of your wealth probably is the shefa of other Yidden. Right? Some of it is yours, but the majority of it is that of other Yidden. Rak al Yidei.
Because shefa can't be wasted.
That's because shefa can't be wasted.
Wait till later.
Correct. And the idea is because the natural order of the world, at least Rabbi Nachman is positing, is everyone has enough. So if you have surplus, it's almost as if whatever is more than your enough, although it's hard to determine for people what's enough, but whatever is more than your enough is not yours. It's not yours. He goes on, he says, Rak idea pagam nitzbaba seder k'moshe beikar klal shefa va'achshav anav sin. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. He says, the alkain. I will say I'm in that same paragraph, 5 lines after the line. The alkain, his hira haTorah ma'od. Lahachzir veloseis laha'ani chelko betuv levav ubesimcha u'b'sever panim yafos. So therefore, the Rebbe says that's why it's so interesting that if you notice in the mitzvah of tzedakah, and it's one of the only mitzvahs like this. I will say generally, when it comes to mitzvahs, does it matter how you do the mitzvah? Does it matter how you do the mitzvah? No, I don't mean how you should do a mitzvah. I mean just on a basic core obligation. I will say, if you keep Shabbos, and you don't do malacha, and you eat sudas, but you don't feel me'ein olam haba, and you feel... have you fulfilled the mitzvah of Shabbos? Yeah. You put on tefillin. You don't put on tefillin. Okay, you put on tefillin, fine. That's a mitzvah. I don't think about it. There's no kavanah. Tzedakah is one of the interesting mitzvahs. Because tzedakah, every single time the Torah speaks out tzedakah, it goes out of its way to tell you not just that you have to give, but it tells you how you're supposed to feel when you give. Which is an incredible thing. Torah doesn't tell me I'm supposed to feel when I put on tefillin. Torah doesn't tell me I'm supposed to feel when the truth is, sukkah is not a good example, right? When I go ahead and, whatever, you fill in the blank, whatever mitzvah it is. But yet, by tzedakah, Torah goes out of its way by saying, by the way, if you look at the Lashon, v'lo yira b'levavcha, ultimately, again, do not feel negative. Ki biglal hadavar hazeh. So what is Hakadosh Baruch Hu saying? Don't be upset. Don't be upset. The only reason I'd be upset when I give tzedakah is why. If I think that's what I'm giving my money, come on, get a job, right? Work a little harder. You know how hard I worked for this money. You know how much I put in for this. It's true. I worked very hard. I worked very hard for this. So now again, there's a mitzvah tzedakah. I have to give. I'm a shtickle resentful. Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, one second. You could only be resentful if you think that it's your chelik that you're giving. But if you recognize it, both saying, see, this is different. It's not the vart. Everything belongs to Hashem anyway. So you're just the custodian of the Ribbon Shalom's wealth. That's the classic idea. The Rebbe is saying something different. That when that ani comes over to me and he opens his hand, do you know what he's asking me for? You know what essentially he's saying? He says, Susie Silber, I think you have some of my money. By the way, this would be incredible for Mishalachim. I'm just saying, this could be a game changer. How do I know? This could be a game changer, right? I'm just saying, the Rebbe is saying, it's incredibly profound. It's incredibly profound that the idea, and I will say, by the way, the Rebbe is saying, what are you getting upset about? And the Ani's right. When he opens his hand, he's not asking you for a matana. He's not asking you to be generous. He's not asking for something magnanimous. He's asking you to give him what may really be his. Now again, how I know who's chef? Okay, yeah. But okay, the Rebbe is creating a hashkafa of tzedakah, and the hashkafa of tzedakah is, you know what? Chances are, if Hakadosh Baruch Hu is sending this ani to me, because remember again, there are a lot of aniyim that come to me, a lot of aniyim don't come to me. Hakadosh Baruch Hu is sending this ani to me. It might very well be because I have some of his shefa. The tzinor got mixed up, the piping got mixed up, and some of this Yid's shefa came to me, and therefore when I give, I'm not giving him some chiddush, I'm not giving him some great matnos libo, I'm simply going ahead and giving him that which is his.
So would then, following that logic, and there seems to be a significant difference in giving tzedakah between giving to a person versus giving to an institution?
I think you could apply the same things. I think, in other words, institutions are.
The shepherd for the institution,
but institutions serve people. I'm saying.
I'm not making up giving it to the person if it's his. If I give an institution,
the institution also has a shepherd.
I'm not accomplishing that.
The institution also has a shepherd.
Right. I'm saying the shepherd goes to everything.
Straw gives
correct.
money.
I don't think it's just. I'll tell you. By the way, the raya to this, and this is going to sound like a very self-serving raya, but it's a halacha. In Hilchos Tzedakah, beginning of Hilchos Tzedakah, in your day, the Shulchan Aruch goes through the hierarchy of Tzedakah. Interestingly enough, what's on the top of the list? It's quite fascinating. Bate Knesio, shuls. Fascinatingly enough, are on the top of the list. So you see from there, the Rebbe has the same Shulchan Aruch. There's the Kuti Halachas. See, he would have to say that an institution must have a shefa also. Yechidim have a shefa. Most those have a shefa. That's what you have to say. Right, no, I'm not. That far I'm not going. Let's say,
one question.
He says earlier, so the person who's has a tremendous ashiris, right? It's a good chance he's saying that Rov is from that. So if you have a person who's very wealthy and he gives mice or even gives a chomesh, he's still going to be extremely wealthy. It's not going to go away. So how can he say that Rubo?
So listen. So Rameir is saying like this. The Rebbe said that if a person is very wealthy, it's possible that even the rov, the majority of his money, is perhaps belongs to someone else. So Rameir is saying, that person gives meiser, he's still going to be very wealthy. Gives chomesh, he's still going to be wealthy. By the way, we spoke of this in today's daf. That's why the halacha is, if a person is exceptionally wealthy, they're allowed to give even more than chomesh. That's the halacha, which fits in very well with the Rebbe. So in other words, if I'm the kind of person, halai we should all be zocha, that even giving chomesh, I'm still wealthy, you're allowed to give more. And the hashkav of that, the Rebbe would say, is because halacha l'maisa, at the end of the day, there's other people's shefa there. And the more you have, almost the logic is the more I have, the more shefa there is mixed in with it. So the Rebbe says, based on this, you can now understand the lashon of the pasuk. So when the pasuk says, because remember again, the Torah says, nason titain. Someone asks you for tzedakah, give. But Shabbos say, by the way, I have to tell you, and this is really important. This is why, it is so important when people come to shul and they ask, people are coming to collect for tzedakah, it is so important to always give. Another yidden comes in and asks you for money, you give. How much you give is up to you. You could keep a roll of quarters. You want to give quarters. You want to go ahead and give $1. You want to give scrip. You could do whatever you want. But when a Jew asks you for something, you have to give. You have to give. I'm not saying that's. I don't know. That's always true on a halachic sense, but certainly on a hashkafic sense, the Rebbe's words are so profound because when that ani comes to me again, it might be $1, but lemaisa, that $1 may really be his. And the Moshe Shalom deposited that with me and is waiting for our two lives to intersect so that I could give this yid the shefa that is his, that is deposited with me. Whenever a Jew asks, whenever it breaks my heart when I see sometimes that people come, and you might have ideological differences with people who are collecting and not understanding certain segments of society. That's fine. Save your judgment for a different time. But Lamaisa, for most of us, I would hope for all of us, the $1 or the couple of dollars does not go ahead and, right, it's not like we're almost on Forbes list and like the tzedakah is it's gonna really knock me off, right? So right, Nechemia, is that true for me? My accountant, I think for some people, right? So Lamaisa, again, it is so important. Nason titin, and now the Rebbe says, and that's what I will say. That's why the Torah says nason titin lo. It doesn't just say give, but lo yira levavcha bisitcha lo. Don't be upset. Because the only reason to get upset is because you think you're giving him your money. But the truth is, says the Rebbe, it's quite possible that what? You're giving him his money. Ki biglal hadavar hazeh yivarechacha Hashem elokecha. Because the pasuk then says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, when you realize that the bracha you have is a composite of your shefa and maybe someone else's shefa, and therefore I'm going to use my bracha to be mahana, to benefit another, at the end of the day, that's where my bracha in life comes from.
So the biglal, does it mean you will get extra bracha? Does it mean this is the only reason you got rich so that you can?
I think you can read it both ways. I think the Pashup shot is ki biglal hadavar hazeh. Do you want to know why you have the extra shefa? The extra shefa is there for you to go ahead and share it with the person who is the rightful owner of that shefa. But it could also mean, I think, but many of them are like this far, and others explain that no, this is a source of bracha. If you do this, correct. And by the way, of course, this is also, when it comes to tzedakah itself is so unique. The aser ta'aser, aser b'shvil shatit asher, the only mitzvah you're permitted to go ahead and trust and test the Kadosh Baruch. So both say,
so it's no longer tzedakah, it's just hashavas avedi, returning a lost object.
It's no longer tzedakah, which by the way, this is what's interesting. How do you translate the word tzedakah? Justice, right? You see, we translate it as charity, which it can. Tzedakah can be something charitable, but tzedek, tirdov, tzedek is also justice. So you begin to see, is it an act of charity? It is, because the truth is, even if intellectually I know that what I have maybe belongs to someone else, it's in my bank account, and it's in my pocket, so it feels like mine. So there is an act of charity, but there's also an act of din. There's also an act of justice. It's not yours, so give it to the rightful owner. So I will say, based on this idea by the Rebbe, turn back a page. Let's do one more piece. Just based on this. So that's the first bombshell that Rabbi Nachman drops, which I think is just, it's life-altering. Rabbi Nachman changes our life every single time we encounter him. It's incredible. But then the Rebbe, and I purposely did this out of order, because you'll see what the Rebbe says over. Look what he writes. I'm now on the first page, Kufay and Vav, on the right-hand side. Nason titein lo v'lo yera levavcha b'sidcha lo. Mashiz hira Torah v'lo yera levavcha b'sidcha lo. Ki beglal hadavar hazeh yivrach Hashem al-kach v'chol ha'aseh v'chol mishal kedech. That's the pasuk. Let's listen to this. Ki ikar hatzdaka hu haratzon hatov. Lafoch harogez v'ha'achzorius l'ratzon. The Rebbe says something amazing. And I will say, see, now it begins to make sense. Because if the mitzvah of tzedakah, like the Rebbe explained before, it's not really mine. It's not really mine. Or I don't know for sure, but it's quite possible that there's quote unquote extra money that I have that's not mine. It's someone else's shefa. So therefore, again, my obligation is to give that person what is theirs. So then, what is the personalistic avoda of tzedakah? In other words, so it's not generosity, because it sounds like what the Rebbe is saying is, like we were saying before, it's justice. It's not generosity. So what is it, the personal avoda of tzedakah? And the Rebbe says something beautiful here. He says the avoda of tzedakah is ultimately ratzon tov, to create a sense of goodwill within yourself. Meaning what? Lahafo charoges v'achzarius l'ratzon. To take anger and indifference and to turn it into kindness, to turn it into goodwill. Al kain tzarech litein tzedakah b'ratzon tov b'li shum roa halev kedei levatel haroges ulahamshich haratzon shezeu ikar hatzedakah. I will say here the Rebbe says something amazing. It turns out that at the end of the day, the mitzvah of tzedakah may not be me to do something nice to someone else, because l'maaseh it's not something nice. I may be giving them the money that's rightfully theirs. So what's the avodah of tzedakah? I'll say the whole avodah of tzedakah is to change myself as a person. I want to become someone different, because all too often in life I go through life with rogez, anger. I'll say, how many of us are noach lichos? We get angry quickly. Right? And we get angry about things that, like, we just should not get angry about. Right? And how many of us are indifferent? We see people in need. We see difficult situations. Either we pretend like we don't see, or we just look away and move on with our lives. Tzedakah, the act of giving to another person, even though, again, what am I giving them? What am I giving them? I might be giving them that which is rightfully theirs, but l'maaseh, the act is there. The mitzvah is there to change me as a human being. And if you skip to the left-hand column, the Rebbe then goes on with this piece. He says, "V'lo yira levavcha." We're not going to do all of this, but take a look. "V'lo yira levavcha b'sidcha lo, ikar his galus haratzon ayedei tzedakah, kishem mishaber achzarius libo, umehapcho lenedivos v'ratzon." Rebbe said the entire essence of the mitzvah of tzedakah is to change myself as a person. I will say the answer of Moshe finds in Zecher Tzadik Livracha the following shaila, and this is very halach lamaisa. A person gets a ton of tzedakah solicitations in the mail. So what is it better? Is it better to give a little to a lot, or a lot to a little? I will say, by the way, this is a good shaila in Hilchos tzedakah. Moshe paskind, it is better to give a little to a lot. Why? Moshe said, because that turns you into a giver. You know, you could write one big check, which is fantastic, but I will say the way a person becomes more murgal in a midah, the way you change yourself is like anything else. Like, right? How do you become a good basketball player? So you practice, right? How do you become good in your profession? Right? Go ahead and do it for a long time, right? Study more. How do you become a giver? How do you become a giver? And the answer is, keep giving. I will say, Rabbi Nachman, from the time that he was 10 years old, he used to do something very interesting. His mother would give him a coin for tzedakah. So for argument's sake, should we give him $1? The Rebbe would go to the Beis Medrash, and he would get 100 pennies. And what the Rebbe would do is he would stand by the pushka, Hineni muchan umuzuman l'kayim mitzvahs asay, pasach tiftach yadcha l'aniyecha hayivyon. Put the penny in. Hineni muchan umuzuman l'kayim mitzvahs, 1 penny after the other, after the other, after the other, each and every day. Because the Rebbe, as a little boy, wanted to make himself into a giver, wanted to make himself into a generous person. Sha'ayidezeh, nishape charogez l'ratzon, v'zocha lahamshich ha'aras haratzon bezeh olam asiyah, shebo ikar achizas harogez. So the Rebbe goes on about, say, you could look at this, you could look at, he actually says one more piece. He said, look at the last line on this page. He says, v'zeh hanadvan, shebita bechinas harogez v'achzorya shebalev, umahapchol rachmanas v'ratzal nedivas leiv, mashpia min nedivas libo leha'ani. Leha'ani. You know, so I'll tell you something amazing. The Rebbe says, if I turn myself into a giver, negate personal anger, negate indifference, and transform myself into a happy, generous person, when I give the money to the ani, not only am I giving him money, but what? I transfer some of that positivity to the ani. So I will say, by the way, I see this. I'll tell you, he was here before. I'll tell you who does this. And he's like, Moshe Werdesheim. Hey, watch Moshe Werdesheim, the way he gives, I'm embarrassing you, but it's a good embarrassment. He's not here, but watch the way he gives tzedakah in the morning. If you dive in here at 6:45, watch the way, right? A smile, a good morning, a how are you? And I will say, by the way, I see it. I get to see a lot of things from where I sit. So I see a lot of things from where I sit.
Some good, some not.
Right? I will say, but what I'll tell you is something amazing. You see it. Right? Because this is the same guy who's been collecting from the back. Moshe sits in the front. Same guy who's collecting from the back of the shul. And the truth is, some people give and they give like this, right? Because suddenly, again, I have the greatest amount of kavan in the world. Right? I can't lift my eyes up from my sitter to make eye contact with another yid who's asking money. I have been talking the entire time up until then, right? But no, I don't interrupt davening for someone collecting tzedakah. Right? So make eye contact. Make eye contact. Right? To acknowledge another human being, such another Jew who's asking for money. Right? So he comes. And like it's a lot of you, like it's deflating. It's a deflating experience. I mean, there are some people who clearly are very comfortable and okay with asking. There are some people who are clearly very uncomfortable with it. And the truth is, I've seen on many occasions where you greet a person with a good morning, a hello. Like, not that I look at you as a schnur, but I look at you as another human being who has fallen on difficult times. You're here to help yourself. I'm happy to help you. I have your chef in my pocket. I'm not even helping you. I'm giving you what's yours. And you see, like, there's a wave of positivity that courses through this ani, that courses through this person. The Rebbe says, when I allowed the mitzvah of tzedakah to change me, so ultimately, again, that personalistic positivity is transferred to the ani as well. So not only does the ani get the money, whatever it is, a lot or a little that I'm giving him, but the positivity, the positive change that I've affected inside of myself, ultimately passes on to the ani as well. The Rebbe goes on and he says, the Rebbe says you can see this. The Rebbe says you could see it. You could see it. You could see what happens to an ani when you treat him like a human being. You could see what happens to the ani when you're makir his humanity. You could see what happens to the ani when he doesn't feel like you're doing him the biggest favor in the world because you gave him $1, but instead you make him feel that you're giving me the opportunity to give you back that which is yours. The whole demeanor of the ani changes. Everything changes. Suddenly someone who could be so tzibrachen and so broken and so downtrodden suddenly fundamentally changes into a different kind of mensch. The Rebbe goes on. I will say, but if you bring this all together, yes.
So I might just tell you somewhat of a personal story. I was a very young boy. There was a Rebbe in Baltimore. His name was Rav Schenker. I don't know if anybody here even remembers him. But I remember it was a young boy and he was walking home with my father on Motzei Shabbos. And they were talking about the differences between what goes on in Europe versus America. This was a conversation, and then one of the items that I remember so clearly, which I didn't understand at the time, was Rav Schenker says, you know, in America, it's easier to ask someone for $1 than to ask them to lend you $1. And I remember I sat there and I asked my father, so, well, what does that mean? I didn't understand it. I was like, I didn't understand it. My father told me, he says, when you give someone $1, that's it, you're finished. You have no connection to him anymore. When you lend him, the Lord wants you to still have a connection with him. And he owes me the money, I have it. He wanted you to develop a feeling between the two. You give it stuck, it's very nice, it's very beautiful. But that's it, your relationship with him is finished. But if you lend him money, you sit there. He says, in Europe, people had a connection with each other because they were promoting the fact that in America, okay, here, take my $1 and I'm done with you. You know, go ahead, use it or something. In America, so in Europe, he says, every person was. Father told me, I remember saying, he said, there wasn't a week that went by that either you were a lender or a borrower. Or a borrower. There had to be every week. You were one or the other.
Incredible. So I think what the Rebbe is maybe positing also is that it's very maybe there is the opportunity to create that connection even through tzedakah. You know, maybe even like before I give the tzedakah, if I say, you know what, it is a schus to be a giver, because when I'm a giver, I become a better person. I'm not as self-centered. I'm not as egocentric. My life is not about me. It's about what I could do to contribute and how I could build. And then I allow that positivity to course through me. The Rebbe is saying then that positivity transfers from you and goes into the ani. In that respect, maybe there's that chibur that's connected. I think according to the Rebbe, there's a chibur regardless, right? Because first of all, it's not my money, right? It may be his shefa that's deposited with me, and also like I'm sharing my positivity with him. Maybe there's a chibur and that's tzedakah as well. But that's beautiful.
What if a person gives over begrudgingly and he's not happy that he's giving over? You know,
so look,
there's no shefa.
No, so look, there's a mitzvah. So you check the box. You gave tzedakah.
Does it still make you a better person? Like they keep giving if you do.
No, in other words, a person could do mitzvahs their whole lives and it doesn't change them as a person. In other words, you have to allow mitzvahs to change you.
Just the act of giving should change.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. But I think that there are people who give every day. They give begrudgingly, and I don't think they become generous people. Right. I think they feel compelled to give, so they give like anything. Like it's the same way. Like I have yet to meet a person who is excited about taking out the garbage. Like, oh, my thing, taking out the garbage, right? Rain or shine, 100 degrees, 20 degrees. I love it. It's such an avoda. Right? People do it. You do it because you have to do it. But so you could do things a whole lifetime and never develop any level of affinity associated with that. Rabbi, what were you going to say?
I was just going to, if it's not my money that I'm giving ultimately, and the Torah ultimately does say that the Baruch Hashem right? Meaning, Hashem is giving you what's yours.
Right.
Right. So at some point it does become mine, right? I mean that's. It may have started off with twisted vow, but ultimately,
it's in my pocket.
Not that it's in my pocket. I Hashem was telling you, I'm going to bless you.
Right.
It's not. It almost sounds like he's like the Rebbe was saying that it's this constant flow that's really not yours. It's a billable from here and there, and you're collecting shefa from other people. And Akash was telling you, if you give somebody bereva, right, with simcha,
I'll give it back to you.
I'm giving it to you.
I'm giving what to you?
He says, so maybe Akash was giving you a personal bracha, individualistic bracha.
Right. You'll get your shefa. Maybe you have your shefa. Maybe you don't have your shefa. But I'm saying, I think what Rebbe is saying, tell me if you agree or disagree, is that if you accept the fact that you may have something that belongs to someone else, and you're willing to part with money you thought was yours, but it's someone else's shefa, Akash Baruch Hu says, I promise you're not going to lose because of that. I'll bless you. I'll take care of you.
I'm meaning my understanding of the Rebbe was just. I'll speak to that afterwards. I feel like
you think that it becomes yours. The shefa.
Meaning he starts off saying that it's not even yours. Meaning it's not yours to think that it's yours to begin with, right?
Right.
Meaning if you have all this revach, it's coming from sources that are flowing into you, but not necessarily on your own merit.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
Meaning, but the end of the pasuk, I was probably telling you, I'm going to give it to you, right?
I'm going to give what to you?
Give what you have.
Right. I'm going to bless you. Right.
Whatever that means. That means wealth, right?
Correct. But it doesn't. But I don't think it refers to that piece of the shefa that's someone else's. That piece of shefa that's someone else's. I want you to give that to. I want you to be my shaliach. Give that to that person.
Really never know what's yours and what's not.
Correct. That's the difficult part of this. In other words, here's what I know. Here's what I know is that any time that the pot is bigger than what I need, however you define need. The Rebbe is saying hashkafically what that means is someone else's money is mixed into mine. So therefore, give. give. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu just says it's human nature. Even if I know that it's not mine, it's human nature to feel like it is mine because it's in my bank account, it's in my pocket. So I'm going to be a little bit begrudging to give. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry. Do what you're supposed to do, and I promise I'll take care of you. How, what, when, where? Obviously, there's no way to measure this. Just like there's no way to measure, doesn't mean that every single time an ani comes to me, the person who's asking me for money, it's his shefa that's in my pocket. I don't know. I don't know if that's what the Rebbe means or not, but it's hashkafically the way to view tzedakah. So we'll say, if we bring this together, I think the Rebbe is teaching us two incredible yisolos. First of all, an incredible yisod by mitzvah of tzedakah. I don't know, I saw this afternoon, I couldn't concentrate on anything else this afternoon. Also, I didn't drink enough coffee, but that was a different discussion, right? But Lamaisa, like, I was so thrown by this. What a way to look at the mitzvah of tzedakah. And what a different way to relate to people who are asking for tzedakah. What a different way just to relate to it. How we relate to our own wealth, how we relate to our own success in terms of what's ours versus what may be another yid's shefa that is sitting in my pocket. But the second part is also equally as important, which is about say, what's the goal of the mitzvah of tzedakah? And by extension, the truth is, what's the goal of all mitzvos? Is character refinement. The whole yisod of a yid is to have refined character, is almost like our natural predisposition is to be angry. And because what is anger? I will say, what is anger? Right? What is anger related to? What midah? Gaiva. Anger is gaiva. Anger is arrogance, right? Something doesn't go my way, I get angry. Whoa. Who said stuff's supposed to go your way? In other words, who are you? Who are you? Right? I think that I'm all important, that everything has to go my way, everyone has to act, everyone has to speak, everything has to... It's gaiva. It's gaiva. Gaiva is egocentricity. Right? Gaiva ha'olam, it's a corrupted ha'olam, kol ha'olam nivra bishvili. The whole point of tzedakah, I will say the whole point of tzedakah is to go ahead and refine my character. To take the roges, to take the anger, and to take the negativity, the Rebbe said, to take the roges and achzarius, and indifference, which is the same thing. I'll say, where does indifference come from? Indifference comes because I don't care about you. I'm focused on me. I don't have to think about you. So anger, indifference, it's the same thing. It's gaiva. And what's the point of the mitzvah of tzedakah? I want to work on myself. I want to work on who I am. And I will say, this yisod is incredibly, and tzedakah, the Rebbe posits, is one of the most incredible ways to work on ourselves. And I'll tell you why I wanted to do this, especially on this night, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Erev Rosh Chodesh Elul. Because I think one of the things that I know personally, like that I want to work on over Elul, and I hope that we could do in this year together, is I think a lot of times when we think about personal avoda, we think about like areas of observance in which we're struggling. I could be better in Lashon Hara. I don't mean speak more. I mean, I could be better in Shmiras Einayim. I could be better, in whatever it is. We all have our areas where we struggle, and that's incredible. But I don't know why I've been thinking a lot about this lately. That maybe sometimes the avoda is not any particular mitzvah, but the avoda is I need to become a better person. I need to work on character refinement. Because if I could refine my character a little bit, if I could take the midos, whether it's gaiva, kas, achzarius, what are all the negative midos, and I could eradicate those, or not eradicate, but I could channel them in different ways, then I become, or sublimate, I become a different person. And then shmiras ha-mitzvos, whatever the mitzvah is, becomes so much easier when I am a different person. And that's what the Rebbe is saying. That sometimes when it comes to mitzvahs, we miss the trees from the forest. Everything becomes about mechanistic details. And mechanistic details are important, right? It's not that the devil's not in the details. The Rebbe Shalom is in the details. But sometimes it just becomes all about the mechanistic details of performance. And we forget that the entire essence of Yiddishkeit is to transform us into transcendent beings, is to go ahead and allow us to overcome our weaknesses and our frailties, is to take the achzarias and the kas and to turn it into ratzon and to turn it into something good. And when we change ourselves and we better ourselves as people, just from my midos as a person, you know what the godless will say if that is? it transfers to other people. You see, positivity rubs off. And the same way that when I give tzedakah in the right way, that personalistic positivity is transferred to the ani. If I work on my midos and I become a better person, the better person I become transfers to others as well. Positivity rubs off. Positivity is infectious. Positivity spreads. It says the Rebbe. That's what we have to work on. Not just to identify what am I taking on, what do I have, what mitzvah am I deficient in, but drill down a little bit. As a human being, where are my areas of weakness? What are the areas I have to work on? And how can I work on them? What kind of plan could I devise? Because if I could turn around my midos hachayim, if I could turn on my midos in life, then there's no telling what I could accomplish. Not just in tzedakah, but in ganz Torah, in ganz Yiddishkeit, and in ganz life. There's no telling what I could accomplish if I work on the person that I need to become. And I both say it's a good segue. That's why Mir Hashem next week. We're going to begin in Mir Hashem. This was the Rebbe, what a gift Rabbi Nachman gave us tonight. But that's why we're going to focus a little bit next couple of weeks on the Piajatzna, B'nai Machshava Tova. And in Mir Hashem, the Rebbe is going to take us through the process of refining the way we think, refining the way we look at life, refining the way we approach life. Not a focus on any one particular mitzvah, but literally taking a deep dive, take a step back and a deep dive into ourselves. And I will say, I want to give you a little bit of warning. There are some people who become very uncomfortable with this process of doing a deep dive into themselves. And the more uncomfortable you are with doing a deep dive into yourself, is the more you need to do a deep dive into yourself. And that's what we're going to do at the Piagetz, the Mir Hashem, over the next couple of weeks. I will say, Shkoyach, again, Shkoyach to Baruch Fischel, to, yes, please.
Related, but like Rebbe said, you could give a quarter, whatever, but are there situations, and like this happened to me in Israel, but are there situations where you've given tzedakah, all you have left is maybe a quarter, a penny, a nickel, a dime, and you feel that would be embarrassing to them to give it, and it's better to say, I'm sorry, I don't have.
So I'll tell you like this.
That
mom just happened when I was in Eretz last time. Somebody threw money back at me. I was like, wow. First I thought it was raining. Mamish, this is incredible. I just stopped me at the coastal and money's going down. No, that was the guy who was angry at me. So again, I will tell you my personal opinion with these things is you apologize. You're apologetic. I'm so sorry. This is all I have. I know it's not enough. Here it is. It is always better to be the giver. If the person throws it back, they throw it back. What are you going to do? Nebuch. That's even a greater rachmanis. Even a greater rachmanis. But you always give. You always give. All right, we'll say Shkach Rebelli. Should we do a niggin, a song?
Is there any way to untwist the pipes so you can get what's owed to you?